The western United States, with its rich Pacific coast, high mountains, and fertile river valleys, probably contains the greatest variety of sport fishing available anywhere in the world. When combined with the true natural beauty of the region, our western fisheries stand out as among the most spectacular anywhere. And with a commitment from all to protect and enhance by putting back more than we take, these natural resources should thrive and be available to all forever. I'm Justin Wolf, and this is Angler West Television. This week, we'll join Gary Loomis in Russia for a pike fishing tournament, and then it's back to Northern California for Whiskeytown bass. In northwest Russia, on the Baltic Sea's Gulf of Finland, sprawls St. Petersburg, Europe's third largest city behind Moscow and London, with over 6 million people living within the city and its vicinity. In 1703, Tsar Peter the Great founded the city as his cultural and economic window to Europe, and named it not after himself, but for his patron saint, the Apostle St. Peter. Built on the banks of the Neva River and its many tributaries and canals, St. Petersburg is a city of islands connected by over 800 bridges. Peter the Great envisioned the city's transportation system to be based primarily on these waterways, and with all of this water available, it's understandable that fishing remains an important local activity. Before construction began on St. Petersburg, Peter the Great visited Versailles and other palaces in Europe, giving him a benchmark to shoot for and to surpass. Personally, St. Petersburg deeply impressed me with its attention to detail and the value placed on its cultural history. Over the past decade, the city has enjoyed a vast economic upswing, where capitalism is alive and well, based on a blended history of Tsarist rule, socialist revolution, war on all fronts, and Soviet control. And through all of this, the Russian people seem to maintain the idea that excellence is worth achieving, and that bigger is most certainly better. Today, we're a couple hours drive north of St. Petersburg at the 2007 Russian Fishing Endurance Tournament at Pioneers Lake, famous for its northern pike. Tournament day started before daybreak with breakfast and an organizational meeting, and now it's up to the three-man teams to work together to bring the heaviest combined limits to the scales. With limited storage space available for many, inflatable boats are very popular in Russia and are perfect for fishing this size lake. In this competition, team members have 4 hours each to fish individually, with an independent observer in the boat, to keep everyone honest and to make judgments as to which fish can be kept or which must be released. With the firing of a signal flare, the competition begins, and the first out grab their confidence baits and head out, knowing that they only have 4 hours to figure out the bite and to catch their limit. The guest of honor today is Gary Loomis, founder of G. Loomis Fishing Rods, who is already signing autographs.
We like women in fishing.
Oh, thank you.
I've seen people ask Gary for his autograph in the States before, but I had no idea that Russian anglers knew of him and admired him so much.
Woman. In St. Petersburg, is many women
Yes.
like fishing.
Yes, no.
And women fishing better, sometimes better than men.
Better? Oh, my wife is a good fisherman. It's really great to be back here in Russia again, where the Russian people really do love Americans. All the propaganda that we grew up with just wasn't true. These are some of the most friendliest people in the world, and they love to have us over here, and we love to be here. And the very best thing that we could do is bring one out of every 100 to the States, just to let them see what it's really like and what our news media doesn't broadcast correctly to them. They're a great bunch of people. Yeah, seeing the flag here reminds me, they brought this flag in to us when we came for this tournament today. It reminds me of a little story that I have from over on the Kamchatka when I went over there fishing here last year. I was introduced to this elderly man. He was about 72 years old. And when they said that this is Gary Loomis from Washington State, he walks up and he gives me a hug and he just holds me for about a minute. And as he backs away, the tears are running down his eyes, and he said, "I want to thank you. Without you Americans during World War II, we would have died of hunger, starved to death, no shoes, and no coal. And I said, oh, coal? Yes, we got coal from Tono, Washington, and my dad happened to have worked in the Tono coal mines.
I can understand the value of a good fishing rod, but all of this attention was just plain strange to me. This gentleman brought his skeleton fish hat and a few gifts for Gary all the way from Moldova, formerly part of Romania. So Gary reciprocated with a new autographed hat. I left Gary to sign his autographs and to see for myself what Pioneers Lake had to offer with a driver and tournament director, Andrei Belikanov. Surrounded by thick evergreen forest, the lake looks fishy, and with the breezy, overcast conditions, it just had the feeling of a big fish kind of day.
This competitor, he land this fish on trolling, and the trolling is like 0.9, so the most efficient is fly fishing. If you get it on fly, it's 1.1, if you cast it 1, and if you troll, it's 0.9. But it's nice pike here.
While trolling was obviously productive, many anglers chose to cast near structure instead.
This guy is the champion, the world champion of trout fishing, and he was using for this kind of for the casting the salt bait with the jig head and the system. So you see, he calling right now. He's calling his partner because he's finishing earlier. So his partner have the advantage approximately. He has like one more hour. So you see, this guy is going to the finish right now.
While trolling in open water, this angler became tangled in an illegal gill net. Obviously, Andrei was angry to discover evidence of poachers, since gill nets have been outlawed in Russia for years. But due to how gill nets unselectively kill everything in the lake, this did offer us a chance to see the variety of fish
This is Russian perch.
available in Pioneers Lake.
Small mouse bass. Just a щучка.
Живая? Нет, судак, чего?
Oh, this is
It's a
walleye.
zenda.
Walleye, zender. А потом туда пойдем.
The several hundred feet of gill net had many perch, walleye, and pike perch, most of which were rotting away and were very smelly.
Вот такого бы, да, кто-нибудь заколбасил? Вот
A few
свежак.
fish tangled in the net were fresh or even alive, like this walleye that Andrei considered releasing, but in the end decided not to because he could see that the damage was just too extensive. Andrei admires America very much. He even passed the test to achieve dual citizenship.
Не,
But
фиг его
finding
выпустим.
this gill net was a little embarrassing for me because I know that he knows that in some parts of
Он уже, видишь,
America, gill
продрался.
nets are still legal. Even from a long distance away, you can tell when someone has a big fish on.
Northern pike. This is northern pike.
This northern pike at just over 12 pounds ended up being the second big fish of the tournament. And if I ever get the fish here, I'm bringing red and white lures. Back at the weigh-in tent, Gary had more autographs to sign and now a steady stream of fish to have his picture taken with, including the big fish of the tournament. This northern pike weighing in at well over 20 pounds. Caught by Alex Krylov, this fish brought the first place prize, a new Yamaran boat with a Yamaha motor, to its team. The weigh-ins are the same but different. Ladies bring their dogs, guys stand around and tell lies, and a few very hard-working people make sure everything runs smoothly. And this tournament did run smoothly, down to the finest detail.
2905.
Later at the award ceremony, Gary was even more busy signing anything they put in front of him. And for me, I just couldn't figure it out. I asked Gary why they liked him so much, and he said it was because of the rods. I like fishing rods too, but this was ridiculous. There had to be something more to it. A few days later, we had the opportunity to visit a tackle shop in St. Petersburg. I noticed that this shop had nothing but the highest quality merchandise, and it was obvious which rods were held in the highest esteem. The shop's owner had a surprise for Gary in the back room.
Outstanding personal contribution to the development of the sport fishing in Russia,
а также техническое совершенство рыболовных снастей
as well as for the technological perfectibility of the fishing tackle,
и успешное развитие экономических связей между Соединенными Штатами Америки и Россией,
and successful maintenance of the economic relations between the Russian Federation and the USA.
решением Совета учредителей клуба любителей российской рыбалки
So by decision number 24 of the Board of Founders of the Russian Fishing Experts Club,
номер 24 от 10.08.2007 года,
dated August 10th, 2007,
награждается звездой Ордена Святого Александра Невского господин Гарри Лумис.
Mr. Gary Loomis is awarded with a star to the Order of Saint Alexander
Награждение
Nevsky.
произвести члена учредительного совета Холодовскому Борису Григорьевичу.
And member of Board of Founders of the Russian Fishing Express Club, Boris Khalandovsky, is doing this. He's awarding you.
Thank you very
This
much.
is already framed.
This,
Сказала, что уже в рамочке можно вешать.
this is beautiful.
Okay, the Star to the Order of St. Alexander Nevsky, a 13th century war hero and saint, is traditionally awarded to Russian war heroes. This honor was initially planned by Peter the Great and first awarded by his wife Catherine I in 1725. So we've got sport fishing development, technological perfectibility of fishing rods, and economic development between Russia and America. So all of the admiration at this tournament makes a little more sense, but I think there's still something missing. After the awards were passed out, the party began, a 4-hour banquet feast, during which I think I was able to put together the last piece of the puzzle for why Gary Loomis is so popular in Russia. During the banquet, Gary toasted with Russian 3-star General Pavel Pavlenko. The toast actually took about 15 minutes, and I'm not sure what they were talking about. But it was clear that what Gary has brought to Russia and to many other countries around the world, besides sport fishing development, perfected products, and economic development, is a true respect for the culture and belief in the inherent goodness of the people,
We're going to fish together.
Yes.
and the ability to communicate all of this by speaking the international language of fish.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Justin Wolf, and I hope you're enjoying today's episode of Angler West PBS. You know, we have wonderful natural resources available to us, but it's important to understand that as a society, if we expect our fisheries to thrive, we must put back as much as we take. The world's oceans and freshwater habitats provide its people with much-needed food and fantastic recreational opportunities, but these resources are not limitless. The oceans of the world are being over-harvested, and we've all seen the effects of habitat destruction on our local rivers and streams. The combination of overharvest and habitat destruction is just too much for our Pacific Coast native steelhead and salmon runs, as well as for hundreds of other species around the world. Maintaining our fisheries for food and fun depends on restoring natural habitat and establishing sustainable harvest methods. To help us understand the issues and possible solutions to some of the problems we face, I'm joined by Gary Loomis, founder of G. Loomis Fishing Rods and president of Fish First, a nonprofit organization devoted to the restoration of our native fish runs. You know, Gary, I've heard quite a bit about mass marking and selective harvest and some new hatchery reform happening in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, they're talking about it right now real heavily. Congressman Norm Dix has been pushing for mass marking for quite a while and selective harvest.
Okay, now what do you mean by mass marking?
Mass
What is it?
marking is what they're doing is they're cutting the adipose fin off the salmon and steelhead so they can tell the difference between a wild fish and a hatchery fish. And so they've been doing it for quite a few years, but they've been doing it not to all of them.
Okay.
So not to all of them. A person catches one, he sees the adipose fin, he says, oh, this is a native fish or a wild fish, so he throws it back when she should have been able to keep it.
Right.
The tribes are not marking all of their fish, so they, if any of us catch it down below, that we'll turn it loose and then they can catch it when it gets back up. But he's starting to push to get that done
Okay,
too.
so all the fish will be
So
marked.
all the fish will be marked, and then get into selective harvest. In the past, Fish and Wildlife's selective harvest has been that they'd put the gill nets in, then they would count the fish that they caught and killed, and if there was more wild fish than there was hatchery fish, they'd wait for a few more days and do it again until they would catch more hatchery fish than wild fish. They would call that selective harvest. But that's not selective
Yeah,
harvesting.
that's playing with the term
That's
a little bit.
yeah, that's right. You know, you've got to be able to retain the fish, pick out the fish you want, the hatchery fish, and release the wild and native fish unharmed. You know, we have 287 runs of salmon extinct and steelhead extinct now, 135 more on the endangered list to go extinct, and we still do not have any selective harvest on the commercial side of it. So we've got to get into some selective harvest or we're going to lose them. Because if we've been talking, 15 years on salmon and steelhead recovery, and there's just no possible way that we can have recovery until we have selective harvest, so that we can let these native fish get back up in the spawning beds and do what they want to do.
Right.
But they've got a new one out now that's a little spooky, and that's this new hatchery reform. Hatchery reform, what they're trying to say there is we have two problems. We have too many hatchery fish on the spawning bed, and so they want to take off the excess of those, leaving only enough hatchery fish in the numbers of wild and native fish. The problem with that is our rivers are nutrient deficient now, because what picks up the nutrients is the carcasses that spawn and die
So
and leave that
if
nutrient.
you take those fish out of there, that's going to deplete the nutrients
It's going to
down
take
to
it
a
even
level,
worse.
right,
So there's
yeah.
going to be less chance of having more fish.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
then they want to take a portion of these and put them into the hatchery to increase the gene pool in the hatchery, because they
A portion of the native fish,
Yeah.
you mean? Oh, well,
The
there's
native
already
one.
such a small number of
So-
native
yeah,
fish
right.
that's taking away from.
So if they don't initiate the selective harvest first to let all of those fish that they're harvesting in the ocean and the river get in, it's spooky, because best science, we've been wrong so many times that I'm afraid if we're wrong this time, we're going to lose them all.
Wow, that's a scary thought.
Scary thought.
Well, if you'd like to learn more about conservation issues like this, go to fishfirst.org. Please visit fishfirst.org for more information about fisheries conservation. And please email suggestions and comments to info@anglerwest.com.
Hi, I'm Blair Pancake, Miss Tennessee 2006, and you are watching Angler West Television.
Welcome to Whiskeytown Reservoir. I'm Justin Wolf. Just west of Redding, California, Whiskeytown is well known for growing large kokanee, possibly the largest in the state. But it's also one of the West's top big spotted bass producers. Today we're with local bass pro, Bill Townsend.
Not a bad choice, first cast. Doesn't look like a big one, but that's one thing about these spots. It's not a real big spot, but they're so aggressive. This darn bait's almost as big as he is. That's the first cast in the morning. We got this one. It's not a real big fish, but You know, these spots in this lake are so aggressive, they'll just eat just about anything. Right here we just pulled up on a really, really big hump. And you can see there's a big tower here for the electrical lines and everything. And it's just a monster hump that comes out here and it drops down. It goes over here to another little hump. And it's a known area. Everybody knows about it that fishes Whiskeytown a lot, you know, for big spots. They'll move up on this, you know, to feed and do whatever, and then they'll go back down. And there's a break that runs right down on this one side, drops off pretty deep, and hopefully maybe we'll get a big one off of that. The bait I'm using is this Lunker Punker. It's made by Black Dog Baits, and it's a wood bait. It's very quiet, it's subtle, but you can really make it move, you know, a long distance. You know, like a Zara Spook, you can only move it from side to side, you know, just you know, short ways, maybe 18 inches or 2 feet. If you want this one, you can make really, really super wide swings. You can make it do all different kinds of things. You can make it look like it's slurping, like it's a trout on top of the water, you know, chasing other little bugs or other little fish or anything. But this is really a super bait, especially for these spots on Whiskeytown and Shasta and everywhere else. Even for your largemouth, I mean, definitely. But this bait is really cool for the spotted bass. You know, right here where this tower is, it's probably only about 5 or 6 feet right in there right now. Then we have an area that comes out here and drops right down into a big saddle and comes out to another hump over here that's I'd say it's 100 yards plus away from us. And we're gonna fish this whole thing out here. It's gonna drop from like 5, 6 feet. Out here in the middle of the saddle, it's gonna be 30, 35 feet, but we're gonna fish that whole saddle and all the way back up into that hump. A lot of times, this time of year, these fish will get out here, instead of being up on the shallows or even on the bottom, they'll get out here and they'll suspend almost right in the middle of these little saddles. And yeah, you know, with top water or anything else, even spinner baits or throwing a grub out there, you know, swimming a grub through them, you can catch these suspended fish, and that's what they're going to be. You know, if they're not up here on top, they'll be out here suspended. And with the full moon that we've had here the last 2 or 3 days, you know, they could have fed up pretty good, you know, during the night, and they could be just out here just relaxing, just taking it easy. Hopefully, you know, maybe we can get some out there suspended. There he is. Not a bad fish. Not a bad fish at all. Oh boy, there's a big one down there with it. There's some good ones. Woohoo! Yes, sir. Oh, there's a fatty. Yeah, look at that. A good Whiskeytown spot right there. There's one 3.5. What a chunk, what a nice looking fish. There he is. You know, all morning we've been fishing humps out here in Whiskeytown. There's just a tremendous amount of humps. And as soon as the sun got on the water, that pattern died pretty quick. So now we're fishing windy banks. We've moved in. And right now, Whiskeytown is always gin clear. We're in 22 feet of water, and I can still see the bottom down there, and it's like this all year round. So we're a ways from the bank. We're throwing way out off these points, off these little windy points right here. And this is the first one we fished. We got this one little one, so we'll stay on this for a while and see what happens, see if we can get some better ones. There he is. That's a good fish, I think. He's either a good one or he's foul hooked. Oh, he's pulling pretty good. Yeah, he's fouled. Not a bad fish though. Another good one. Yeah. Oh yeah, look at that. Another good Whiskeytown spot. Come on. Yeah. Look at that. Look at this fish. This fish has been, at one time it was hit by a boat. That looks just like a prop, went right there across his back, almost severed his backbone, but he survived it. My goodness, I can't believe the gash that fish has got. That's awesome. You know, here it is right now. It's almost 8:15. We've got 4 topwater fish, end of August. And look at this lake, folks. I mean, I think we've seen 1 bass boat and 1 other boat. I mean, this is just pure enjoyment. I mean, look at the country. You couldn't ask for a better place to fish. And this lake, compared to like Shasta, Oroville, you know, any of your other spot lakes, this lake here, you have a better opportunity of catching a 20-pound limit here than you do on any other lake, I believe, in Northern California. This lake is absolutely awesome. Not only does it have spots, it has plenty of big largemouth, a lot of smallies. The smallie population is not as, I don't think, is as good as it was, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But still, I mean, this lake, this fishery is just unbelievable. Let's see if we can catch another one. Oh, that was a good one.
Hey, thanks for watching today's episode. You know, without the support of the sponsors, the show would not be possible. So please thank them when you can. Now get out there and do some great fishing.